Hello, guys. Welcome to the world of science fiction. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss any of our exciting new stories. Get ready to dive into a world of imagination.
Jack O'Neill squinted up at the gleaming spaceport, shading his eyes from the scorching Texas sun with hands weathered by years of hard work. At 55, he'd expected to be winding down, maybe overseeing some small construction projects, certainly not gearing up for a journey into the stars. Yet here he was, retirement papers signed and a ticket to the cosmos burning in his pocket. He chuckled to himself. "Well, I'll be damned," he murmured, feeling a grin spread. Jack O'Neill, space cowboy. Who'd have guessed? He hefted his duffel bag and strode towards the check-in counters. Around him, the spaceport buzzed with energy. Families hugging goodbye, business types in slick suits chattering into hollow communicators, and tourists gawking through vast viewports at the starships beyond. At the counter, he approached an attendant with striking blue skin that contrasted sharply against her crisp white uniform. "Howdy, ma'am. Jack O'Neill, checking in for the Silver Nebula cruise." The attendant blinked her 4 eyes in quick succession, scanning his ticket as her brow creased. "I'm sorry, sir. There seems to be a mistake. This ticket's for the Galactic Dream." Jack frowned. "That's not right. I booked the retirement special." Her tone stayed cool. "The system doesn't make mistakes, sir. The Galactic Dream is our premier liner. You're quite fortunate." She pressed a key card into his hand and gestured toward the boarding area before he could argue. "Enjoy your cruise, Mr. O'Neill." Puzzled but curious, Jack headed toward the boarding gate, where the passengers looked different. Small groups of stunningly beautiful women from various species chatted excitedly. He overheard talk about crowns and interstellar fame. A tall Orion woman with emerald green skin strolled over, flashing him a smile. "Well, hello there, handsome. I don't recall seeing you at preliminaries." Jack chuckled, confidence sparking through his confusion. "That's because I'm not a contestant, ma'am. Just a passenger." Her eyes widened. "A passenger? But this flight's for the Miss Universe 2092 finalists." Before Jack could respond, a human in a captain's uniform rushed by, urgently urging the ladies to board. Jack tried to flag him down. "Excuse me, sir, I think there's been a mix-up." The captain barely glanced at him. "No time for that. If you've got a valid ticket, get on board. We have a schedule." Swept along by the crowd of contestants, Jack found himself stepping onto the most luxurious ship he'd ever seen. The Galactic Dream lived up to its name. Shimmering surfaces, elegant curves, and sprawling interiors. A blue-skinned Andorian woman with twitching antennae accidentally bumped into him. "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm Thala. Are you one of the crew?" Jack grinned, embracing the absurdity of it all. Name's Jack, and no, just a regular passenger along for the ride. Her eyes gleamed with interest. "A mysterious passenger. How intriguing. You'll join us for drinks later, won't you?" In his luxurious cabin, Jack looked in the mirror and laughed. "Well, Jack, seems retirement's going to be a whole lot more interesting than you planned." That night, Jack found himself at the center of attention at a lively party in the ship's Grand Lounge. The contestants were curious but quickly charmed by his easygoing humor. A lithe alien woman with a playful tail swished her glass toward him. "So, Jack, what's your secret? How did you land a spot on this trip?" He winked. "Now, a man's got to have some secrets. Let's just say I have friends in high places." The women giggled, intrigued by this unexpected addition to their exclusive voyage. Suddenly, the ship lurched violently, throwing passengers off balance and shattering glasses. Lights flickered. The captain's voice crackled over the intercom, clearly panicked. "Ladies and gentlemen, please return to your cabins immediately. We're experiencing technical difficulties." Jack's instincts kicked in. He knew real danger when he saw it. "Everyone, stay calm," he called, his voice firm. "Let's find somewhere safer than this lounge." Guiding them to a secure common area, Jack reassured the frightened contestants. Just as they settled, the ship jolted again, harder. Through a viewport, he saw stars distorting. Something had seized the ship. With one final sickening lurch, they broke free, drifting into silence as eerie red emergency lights cast shadows across terrified faces. "Status report," Jack barked, his leadership instincts taking over. A Vulcan woman nervously checked a console. "Long-range communications are offline. Navigation. We can't recognize any star patterns." Realization sank in. They were lost in uncharted space. The The captain's voice returned, shaky. "Ladies and gentlemen, we were trying to determine our location." Jack grabbed the nearest comm panel. "Captain, Jack O'Neill here. I've got crisis management experience. Focus on the ship and I'll help keep everyone calm." After a pause, the captain's relief was evident. "Mr. O'Neill, any assistance would be appreciated. This is beyond anything I've trained for." Facing the frightened women, Jack saw panic on the verge of boiling over. He straightened, his voice clear. "Listen, everyone. I know this isn't what we planned, but panic won't help. We're alive, we have air, and we have each other. That's a good start." A young woman raised a shaky hand. "But what do we do now? We could be anywhere." Jack's eyes twinkled with a roguish grin. "Well, sweetheart, looks like we're in for an adventure. Now, who wants to help me check out our supplies?" As they began organizing under his calm guidance, Jack shook his head in amazement. This was not the retirement he'd imagined. Jack worked tirelessly to establish a sense of order and purpose among the passengers and crew. His background in construction proved invaluable as they assessed the ship's systems and began making essential modifications for long-term survival. One evening, as he pored over schematics in the ship's lounge, Thala, the Endorian contestant, approached him. "Jack, may I speak with you?" she asked, worry evident in her gaze. He looked up and gave her a reassuring smile. "Of course, Thala. What's on your mind?" She took a seat beside him, her antennae drooping. "Some of us are nervous, Jack. The captain, he's not managing things well. But you always seem so calm and confident. How do you do it?" Jack leaned back thoughtfully. "Thala, confidence doesn't mean you're not afraid. It's about facing your fear and doing what needs to be done anyway." He gestured around the room. "Look at what we've accomplished. We're producing food, recycling water, and learning more about our situation every day. That's not just because of me. It's because of all of you." Thala's antennae lifted slightly, a hint of hope returning to her face. "But you brought us together. You gave us direction." Jack chuckled. "I just pointed out what needed to be done. You all are the ones putting in the hard work. And I've never seen a more capable group." Just then, the ship's lights flickered ominously. Jack's expression shifted, turning serious. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to have a chat with the captain." Jack found the captain on the bridge, staring blankly at a star chart. The man looked exhausted, as if he hadn't slept in days. "Captain," Jack said firmly, "we need to talk." The older man turned slowly, his eyes unfocused. "Mr. O'Neill, I don't know what to do. We're lost. Utterly lost." Jack stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Listen to me. Those people out there are relying on us. They need a leader, someone to give them hope. If you can't do that, then step aside and let me take the lead." The captain bristled. You're just a passenger." Jack crossed his arms. "A passenger who's been holding this ship together while you've been in here." He paused, his voice steely. "Now, are you going to get it together, or do I need to take command?" For a tense moment, the two men stared each other down. Finally, the captain's shoulders slumped. "You're right. I'm not cut out for this. The ship is yours, Mr. O'Neill." Jack nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on him. "All right, then. Let's get to work. We have a long road ahead of us." As he turned to leave, Jack caught his reflection in a dark screen. He looked older, more worn than he had just days ago. But there was also a determination in his gaze, a fire that hadn't been there before. "Well, old man," he murmured to himself, "looks like retirement's on hold for a while." With a deep breath, Jack walked out to address his crew, a group of beauty queens from across the galaxy, now transformed into an unlikely team of space explorers. As he laid out plans and inspired hope, Jack O'Neill knew that the greatest adventure of his life was just beginning. Later that night, a soft knock on his cabin door woke Jack from sleep. He rubbed his eyes, wondering who could be visiting so late. Opening the door, he saw Mary, a beautiful blue-skinned contestant. "Mary," Jack said, surprised but smiling. "What brings you here at this hour?" Mary looked up, her large eyes shimmering with worry and something else. "Jack, I couldn't sleep. I'm scared. Could I stay here tonight?" Jack's smile softened. "Of course, Mary. Come on in." As she stepped into the dim cabin, the light cast a soft glow on her azure skin. Her graceful figure stood out against her flowing white gown. "You can take the bed," Jack offered, "and I'll settle on the floor." But Mary shook her head, her voice barely above a whisper. "No, please stay with me. It's less scary with you nearby. Jack hesitated before nodding. All right, if that's what you'd prefer. They climbed into bed, and Jack kept to his side, not wanting to intrude. As the minutes passed, he felt Mary's tension, sensed her inching closer for warmth and reassurance. You're safe here, Mary. Try to get some rest, he whispered. Closing his eyes, he soon felt her moving closer, her body warm against his. She leaned in, her breath soft on his neck, her hand resting on his chest. He opened his eyes to find her gazing at him, a longing in her eyes. Before he could speak, Mary leaned in, pressing her lips gently to his. The kiss deepened, and Jack felt a surge of passion. Mary's touch was gentle yet intense, and he was swept up in the moment. The night became a shared embrace of comfort and connection. In Mary's touch, Jack found a renewed sense of purpose and felt emotions that went beyond the physical. As dawn began to break, they lay wrapped in each other's arms, content. Looking at Mary, peaceful and beautiful in the morning light, Jack smiled. That was something special, he murmured. Mary smiled back, her eyes shining. Yes, it was. Thank you, Jack. I feel safe with you. With a gentle kiss, Jack felt a peace and contentment he hadn't known in a long time. As sleep began to claim him, Jack murmured, I'm here for you, Mary, a quiet promise that brought him comfort. Life had taken an unexpected turn, and though retirement was on hold, he wouldn't change a thing. In the weeks that followed, Jack poured his energy into converting the Galactic Dream from a luxury liner into a self-sustaining ark. His years in construction became invaluable as he studied the ship's blueprints, pinpointing the essential systems needing modification. All right, folks, Jack declared at a shipwide meeting. We have 3 main priorities: air, food, and power. Without those, nothing else matters. He organized the crew into dedicated teams, each focusing on a vital aspect of their survival. The ship's hydroponics bay, initially meant for ornamental plants, quickly became their food production hub. Thala, the Endorian, showed an instinctive skill with plants. Look at this, Jack, she exclaimed one day, holding a peculiar-looking vegetable. We managed to cross-pollinate earth lettuce with Endorian frost ferns. It's packed with nutrients and grows twice as fast. Jack beamed, clapping her on the shoulder. Fantastic work, Thala. You might just save us from a lifetime of protein packs. As weeks turned into months, Jack found himself managing not only the technical challenges of survival, but also the social dynamics within their diverse crew. Cultural misunderstandings and personality conflicts arose from time to time. One day, he walked into the common area just as an argument erupted between Zara, a passionate Orion, and Liana, a composed Vulcan. Your meditation sessions are pointless, Zara shouted. We should be focusing on practical skills. Jack stepped between them, raising his hands. Hang on, both of you. We need both. Zara, your physical training keeps us strong. Liana, your meditation practices keep us grounded. There's space for both on this ship. His calm approach eased the tension, but Jack knew these issues would keep coming up. He made a mental note to plan more team-building activities. That evening, Zara found Jack in his quarters. Thanks for earlier, she said with a glimmer of gratitude and something more. Jack grinned. Just doing my job, but I'm glad it helped. Zara stepped closer, her intense energy hard to ignore. We're out here, alone in the universe. Maybe we should make the most of it. Before Jack could reply, she leaned in and kissed him, her warmth igniting something within him. Just then, a quiet knock sounded on the door. They broke apart, catching their breath, as the door opened to reveal Liana, calm as ever. I sensed an emotional disturbance, she remarked. Is everything all right? Zara smirked. Oh, everything's just fine, Liana. Just fine. Liana glanced between them, understanding dawning in her eyes. I see. Perhaps, given our circumstances, it would be wise for us all to strengthen our bonds. That night was unlike any Jack had known, a whirlwind of passion and connection that broke down the barriers between them. Jack marveled at the contrast of Zara's fiery intensity and Liana's steady composure, feeling a deep connection that united them beyond their differences. Later, as they lay together in a peaceful stillness, Jack looked at Zara and Liana, their expressions serene and content. We're in this together, he murmured, sensing a bond that would carry them through whatever lay ahead. As the months turned into years, Jack worked tirelessly to keep morale high. He organized talent shows, impromptu sports tournaments, and even science lectures, tapping into the crew's collective knowledge. One evening, he announced, we're holding our first Galactic Dream Science Symposium. Topic: Theoretical Applications of Warp Field Dynamics in Uncharted Space. A brilliant Trill scientist led the lecture, sparking lively debates and intriguing theories. Jack watched with pride as the crew engaged passionately, their thoughts focused on discovery rather than their isolated circumstances. Yet, despite all efforts, the strain of their situation weighed heavily. Jack often found himself comforting crew members battling loneliness and homesickness. One evening, he discovered May, a human crew member from China, quietly weeping in the observation lounge. "Hey, there," he said softly, taking a seat beside her. Beside her, wanting to discuss it, she wiped her tears. "I miss home, Jack, my family. They must think I'm dead." Jack nodded, his heart heavy. "I know, sweetheart. We all have people waiting for us. But look out there." He motioned toward the unfamiliar stars. "We're witnessing things no one has ever seen before, and we'll find our way back. I promise." As years passed, the Galactic Dream encountered phenomena beyond explanation. Strange, swirling nebulae that seemed to whisper in their minds, gravitational anomalies that warped space itself. Jack gathered a team of scientifically minded crew members to study these phenomena, hoping they might lead to a way home. "What do you make of this?" Jack asked Prella, a Vulcan astrophysicist, pointing to a screen filled with strange energy readings. Jack squinted at the display. "I'm not sure, but it reminds me of the subspace eddies we encountered near wormholes. Could this indicate a stable passage?" Prella's eyes widened slightly. The Vulcan equivalent of excitement. An intriguing hypothesis. We should adjust our course to investigate further. These scientific endeavors gave them purpose and hope. Each discovery felt like a step closer to home. 5 years into the journey, Jack found himself drawn to Jennifer, a brilliant young engineer who had become his right hand in maintaining the ship. Her quick wit and sharp mind challenged him in ways he hadn't experienced in years. One evening, as they worked late calibrating the warp core, Jennifer looked up at him, her eyes sparkling. "You know, Jack, when I entered that beauty pageant, I never imagined I'd end up on an epic space adventure with a charming older man." Jack chuckled, feeling a warmth he hadn't known in years. "And I never thought my retirement would involve playing captain to a ship full of beauty queens. Life's funny that way." Their growing closeness didn't go unnoticed, creating ripples of tension in the tight-knit crew. Jack found himself balancing his personal feelings with his responsibilities as their leader. In the 8th year of their journey, disaster struck. The Galactic Dream encountered a massive ion storm, fiercer than any they had faced before. Alarms blared as the ship shook violently. "Hull breach in Section 4!" Jennifer shouted over the chaos of the bridge. "We're venting atmosphere!" Jack's mind raced. He knew the only way to seal the breach was manually from outside the ship. Without hesitation, he donned a spacesuit. "Jack, no!" Jennifer cried. "It's too dangerous." He cupped her face in his hands. "Someone's got to do it, darling, and I'm not losing any of you." Before anyone could stop him, Jack launched himself into the void, battling against the solar winds. He reached the breach, but as he worked to seal it, debris struck him, cracking his helmet. With the last of his strength, Jack completed the repair just as darkness closed in. He saw the airlock open, Jennifer reaching for him. Jack awoke days later in the medbay, his body bruised but alive. The entire crew had gathered, their faces a mix of relief and admiration. "You saved us all, you old fool," and Jennifer said, squeezing his hand. Jack looked around at the women who had become his family, humans and aliens, former beauty queens turned survivors and explorers. They had faced the unknown together, forging bonds stronger than blood. "No," he said softly, "we saved each other." As Jack recovered, he felt a shift in the atmosphere aboard the ship. His sacrifice had united them in a way nothing else could. They were no longer just survivors. They were a true crew, ready to face whatever the universe threw at them. The Galactic Dream continued its journey through uncharted space, its crew no longer solely focused on returning home, but on the incredible adventure they were living. And at the helm stood Jack O'Neill. Here is a rewritten version of the text in English. A retired construction worker who had reluctantly become the captain of the crew, Jack led them into the unknown with steadfast determination and his characteristic grin. His recovery from the ordeal was slow but steady, and as he regained his strength, he found himself supported by a crew he now considered family. Jennifer, never far from his side, offered constant comfort with her sharp wit and quick intellect, helping him through his rehabilitation. One day, Jack, attempting to sit up, winced and jokingly remarked, "I always thought retirement would involve more golf and less almost dying in space." Jennifer rolled her eyes but couldn't help but smile. "Well, consider this an extreme sport, old man. Now, let's get you back on your feet. This ship won't captain itself." As the days turned to weeks, Jack began to notice a change in the ship's atmosphere. The near catastrophe had brought the crew closer together, transforming their makeshift society into a more unified and cohesive group. Cultural differences, once significant, now seemed trivial compared to their shared experiences. On the 10th anniversary of their unexpected journey, fate intervened in a way none of them could have predicted. "Jack, you need to see this," Tapella, the usually composed Vulcan, called out urgently as she entered the bridge. "We've detected something, an anomaly, unlike anything we've encountered before." Jack followed her to the science station, where a holographic display revealed a massive ring-like structure floating in space. Its surface pulsed with an unfamiliar, otherworldly energy. "What are we looking at?" Jack asked, his eyes wide in awe. "If I had to guess," Tapella responded, "I'd say it's some form of artificial wormhole technology. A gateway, perhaps, created by an ancient, advanced civilization." The news spread quickly throughout the ship, sparking a renewed sense of hope. For the first time in a decade, the crew dared to believe that this could be their way home. Jack convened a meeting to discuss their options, and the debate was both heated and emotional. "We have to try it!" Zara, the fiery Orion, insisted. "This might be our only chance." "But the risks are immense," Lyanna, the Vulcan, cautioned. "We could be destroyed or end up even farther from home." Jack listened carefully to each argument, feeling the weight of the decision pressing on him. Finally, he stood up, silencing the room. "I know we're all scared," he said, his voice calm and steady. "We've been lost for a long time, and the unknown is frightening. But look around you. 10 years ago, we were strangers. Now, we're a family. Whatever lies on the other side of that gate, we'll face it together. I say we take the chance." The vote was unanimous. They decided to activate the gate. The following days were filled with frantic preparations. Jack, Jennifer, and the engineering team worked tirelessly to reinforce the ship's systems in preparation for the journey. As they neared the ancient structure, Jack felt a mix of excitement and anxiety. He gripped the captain's chair tightly, his knuckles white. "All systems go," Jennifer reported from her station. "Gate activation in 3, 2, 1. Suddenly, the world around them exploded into a dazzling array of light and color. The ship shook violently, and for a terrifying moment, Jack feared they might be torn apart. Then, everything went still. "Report," Jack barked, his vision still blurry. "We're in the Sol system." Tapella's voice was filled with disbelief. "Jack, we're home." As the realization sank in, the ship erupted into cheers. Tears of joy flowed freely as the crew embraced each other. Jack, his own eyes misting with emotion, stared at the familiar blue globe of Earth on the view screen. However, their joy was short-lived as they established contact with Earth. The true scale of their absence became painfully clear. The world they had left behind had changed drastically in the decade they had been gone. 10 years, Jack murmured, shaking his head as he processed the flood of information. "It feels like a lifetime." The return of the Galactic Dream caused a global sensation as they docked at the orbital station. Upon arriving at the station, the crew was met by a crowd of reporters, scientists, and government officials, all eager to hear their story. Adjusting to their new reality proved difficult as they grappled with advanced technology, shifting political landscapes, and cultural changes that had occurred during their absence. Jack, now 65, quickly became a celebrity. His leadership, resourcefulness, and the remarkable tale of their survival captured the public's imagination. But fame came with its own challenges. "I didn't sign up to be a circus act," Jack muttered one evening after yet another interview request. Jennifer, squeezing his hand, replied, "No, you signed up for a peaceful retirement cruise. The universe had other plans." As the days went by, Jack grew more frustrated with the bureaucracy and politics surrounding their return. He longed for the straightforward, purpose-driven life they had once had aboard the ship. It was during one particularly tiresome debriefing that an idea struck him. Jack stood up suddenly, cutting off the official's monotone speech. "I have an idea," he declared. The Galactic Dream isn't just a ship. It's the most advanced test of long-term space living humanity has ever undertaken. And we have a crew with 10 years of experience in uncharted space. Instead of just studying us, why not put us to work? His impassioned speech sparked a new direction. Within months, Jack found himself leading a new company, Frontier Explorations, dedicated to expanding the frontiers of space travel and fostering intergalactic cooperation. The company's first project was to retrofit the Galactic Dream for a mission into deep space, with a crew consisting of both original survivors and new recruits eager to learn from their experience. On launch day, Jack stood before his team, old friends and new faces alike. Though the years had left their mark on him, his eyes still gleamed with the same adventurous spirit. 10 years ago, I thought my greatest adventure was behind me, he began, his voice echoing in the launch bay. I was wrong. What we experienced, what we built together, was only the beginning. Out there, he said, pointing to the stars visible through the viewport, that's the real final frontier. And we're going to face it the same way we faced our hardest days, together. The crowd erupted in cheers, and Jack felt a familiar rush of excitement. He exchanged a look with Jennifer and winked. "Ready for another wild ride, darling?" he asked. She smiled back. "With you, Jack, always." With a final wave to the crowd, Jack led the crew back aboard the Galactic Dream. As the engines roared to life, he settled into the captain's chair, feeling as though he was home once more. "All right, everyone," he announced, his voice full of anticipation. "Let's see what's out there." As the ship took off, it carried not just the hopes of the crew, but the aspirations of a world now awakened to the vast possibilities of the cosmos. And at the helm stood Jack O'Neill, the unexpected hero whose greatest adventure had only just begun.